Have you ever had a conversation about griefing? You'll find many of us are using the word to describe different things. For some, it's aggressive gameplay without any purpose other than ruining somebody else's fun. For others, it doesn't even exist in gaming because anything is fair play. And for many, it simply describes any aggressive gameplay that they don't expect at that moment. But who defines what a player should expect as they fly around space and visit different planets? And will players ever truly be safe if other players can use weapons anywhere they please, armistice zones are removed, and we have to depend on in-game security to keep players in line? Star Citizen is seemingly making a huge gamble on a system based around PvE and PvP bounty hunting, prison systems, security infrastructures, and a deep reputation system to keep the civil players amongst one another and the more aggressive side to their own. But can it also solve problems like harassment and repetitive targeting? This is another Red Take supporter exclusive released in May to all YouTube and Patreon members. For regular higher quality coverage of Star Citizen's development, your referral code under each of our videos, live podcast access, and possibly more, all levels of support keep us doing what we're doing. For all you who already have, thank you for supporting my Tomato Talks. A very divisive and always evolving part of Star Citizen is its balance between simulation and full-on game. It needs to be both to accomplish its goals of being a space sim, but also maintaining a player base that can support it. Where many of those sim elements come in are with things like the cargo system requiring players to physically locate and transport anything they want to move in the game, or life support on ships not being able to cover more than the rated crew count at any given time. Your ability to lose everything you're carrying when you die, or whether your ship thrusters are malfunctioning due to continued overuse and wear and tear. Chief amongst these specific design decisions is essentially allowing the game to be full PvP. Now, while this sounds scary at first, at its core it boils down to incentivizing star systems in local areas to operate as you'd expect. But once you're in those areas, things are more reliable. Take Stanton, for example, our current star system. While this system is flourishing in population and economic status, it's also teeming with piracy and danger. It's not meant to be a beginner-friendly system exactly, in which every area feels safe and secure. Compare that to a paradise tourist system like Ellis. This system features flourishing economies on its inner planets, but sees lower crime rates. And then there's the frontier system of Pyro, which we know is coming pretty soon. This one obviously sees a very low economic potential, but has extreme danger in those same areas. After looking at the balances of these statistics, you start to get an idea of where you might live as a more risk-averse player. And in order to help silo these systems into the gameplay that people are looking for, you put the more highly rewarded content in the more riskier areas. And this is backed by the simulation and development, which I covered earlier this year. Probability volumes are large areas around each point of interest that define your likelihood to run into an AI pirate, hauler, or security member. Different locations will have different percentage chance per minute for each variable, and these probabilities can change over time as conditions shift, such as if a space station is blockaded or the price of goods or components at a location skyrockets. So wherever you are, both the star system you're in and the local area you're traversing should adequately communicate to you whether it's the kind of place you actually want to be. Todd Pappy, former Star Citizen Live director, lays this out in 2020 on Calling All Devs.
You have to think about how different solar systems are connected to each other. Stanton is a somewhat lawful system. It's got UEE versus Pyro. It's supposed to be a very unlawful system. I would start there. So they started, what system should I be in? What system, do I want to go to? And
if I'm in Terra, I probably should feel pretty safe. If I'm in Pyro,
correct.
I should be looking over my shoulder.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, and in Stanton, we still want there to be areas for people to look for PvP. We still want there to be areas that are, mostly geared toward PvE. So it will really just depend on kind of how the player goes about looking for them.
This gives the game control over mission payouts, the price of services, what kind of missions are spawning, and the overall cohesion of your experience. It also liberates players from rules that otherwise stop sandbox gameplay. Access to weapons and tools in all areas means player-staged death matches, combat races, role-playing events, machinima, and general debauchery with your friends. It lets players do what they want and find the right place in the game that allows it, oftentimes leading to players finding others a bit more like-minded, and enticing them to take opportunities in areas that are leaning in the opposite direction. It also means the bounty hunter may be the best profession in the game. You're essentially paid to go out and either subdue or completely destroy the people who are actually making other people's days worse. These could be the traditional pirates that are stealing goods, extorting traders, and throwing asteroids at planets. Or it could be the actual griefers repeatedly pad-ramming new players who haven't even learned how to take off yet. Allowing for all systems to work in all areas means higher-ranking bounty hunters or even bounty hunters on specific jobs can receive a weapons permission in the city when nobody else has them, allowing for gameplay advantages and different experiences for players based on who they focus on playing as and where they build up their reputation. Having a fully PvP-capable game that is segmented out in different spaces of various safety depends heavily on two different things for enforcement: security systems and reputation. Since we've already kind of gotten into it, first, we're going to talk about reputation. In Star Citizen, players currently rely on reputation with factions for some level of progression when running missions. But the more important responsibility of the system is one that only just began with the Alpha 3.23 patch: law enforcement. If you don't know about the pseudo-perma-character death system Star Citizen wants to use, I have a pretty old video covering it if you're interested. I really need to update that video. This game is meant to have varying levels of consequences that kinda warn you to stop messing around. General damage, bleeding, and eventually injuries like cracked bones are the first line. Besides that, you have reputation hits, crime stats, losing your ship, and eventually the prison system that will literally lock you up for hours. And then if you still haven't gotten it, you can always die, and eventually permanently lose your character. This will be very hard to do, but it is a possibility. So threatening players with lethal force is meant to be just one deterrent to players who find themselves in the wrong system. Your reputation with any faction in the game will define how they respond to you. They may offer you missions and discounts, give you access to unique stores and separate locations in the game, simply grant you access to their fuel and repair services, actively turn away your business, or all-out attack you on sight. Various behaviors and reactions have been in development for the AI teams, and they are now slowly rolling out to give factions more options when coming across players they are either allies or enemies with. So when you continue causing trouble for cargo haulers in the area, stealing, extorting, and even attacking civilians, your reputation with local law enforcement, the UEE, and possibly even the Bounty Hunters Guild will drop. And you may hack away your crime stat for immediate relief, but that reputation will stick. And at some point, you'll simply never be able to approach the local cities or space stations in the area without much more additional effort, basically locking you out of locations and opportunities. You may think the AI in the game sucks and can't stop you, but when the game does run well, I find the devs seem to spend more effort toning the AI down rather than up. And on the other side of the law, that bounty hunter who's hunting you on foot because maybe you were able to sneak into a location or city through underground tunnels and past security, that bounty hunter has high enough reputation with both the local security firm and the Bounty Hunters Guild that they've unlocked the perk of using weapons in the city. The system can empower and limit players for both gameplay and balance purposes, providing rewards, missions, secret access, and even a bounty on your head if you step too far out of line. And most importantly, reputation acts as the player tracking system. Known as Hex internally, originally developed by Turbulent Studios, now a part of CIG. This ability to track players is crucial to the security systems that ultimately rebuff bad behavior. And these security systems are already in-game to some extent, and players are free to test them. As an example, players currently can see charges pressed on them for any crime they commit in monitored space, unless they fly to the local comm array, EVA inside, and disable the system, at which point anyone can rampage in the local area with no repercussions. Comm arrays are just one of several systems that are supposed to enforce some sort of safety in the game. Another one that can be seen but is not entirely active is the customs checkpoints in all the cities. These areas are meant to be kind of like the contraband scans that you get from ships when you're in space around the stations, making sure players don't have weapons or items that aren't allowed in that space. This space at that point being the cities. This is because armistice zones, these safe zones that protect locations from people pulling out their weapons, will also be going soon. And we've seen this discussed and confirmed a couple of times over the years, again by Todd Pappy.
Yeah, I know Chris is a big proponent of real world, of intrinsic things that are as they should be in the universe if it were live. And a magical zone that prevents you from pulling your gun out of your holster, isn't indicative of what we want to do.
No, but you want to know that certain areas are safe. So, and when you go into ArtCorp or you go into these areas, there's security areas. So the idea would be that you need to holster your weapon, or you need to basically drop off your weapon there, so that you're not bringing in something that somebody else can.
The prison and jail system is another part of this security network. While jail seems to be more focused on the bounty hunting profession and likely won't be a place actual players end up much, the prison acts as a detention center in which players can escape via a long platforming session, after which they still need to find a way to get off the moon's surface, or players can work off their sentence in the mines, taking part in its local economy, finding loot, and even continuing their life of crime. Eventually, this will also be a place only specific missions can be acquired and specific mission givers will be found. And hopefully also the system will be vastly improved, because as it is now, the prison system is simply not ready for what they're trying to set up here. But it's not just this one prison. Many systems will have local laws, listed misdemeanors and felonies that are specific to their government. Again, going back to the idea that players will want to find a place that fits their style, danger level, and desired gameplay. The overall law system makes factions make more sense, adds variety to gameplay, and also, they hope, can combat griefing to some effective extent.
Yeah, when we go to Nyx or when we go to Pyro or even Vandal systems or something like that, the idea is that with this law system, it allows us to basically set laws at a solar system level, and then from there we have zones that can basically increase or decrease, what is viewed as legal, in that area.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a pretty healthy player versus player community and stuff, and you don't want to necessarily stifle that with too much automation and protection, but at the same time, we do want to safeguard a reasonable play experience for the majority of the community and stuff. So for
the average player, like if somebody's griefing, then we want to protect that other person's experience as well.
All of these systems are pretty interesting purely from the gameplay impact perspective. Locations like derelict outposts, distribution centers, abandoned space stations, pirate space stations, cities, and towns were all made with this sliding scale of how much risk you want to encounter in mind. Those abandoned space stations, security outposts, and drug labs are all purpose-built hotspots for combat and PvP. While PvP and aggressive activity are possible everywhere, Star Citizen will try to push it into these distinct areas, preferably to develop the areas in which they can ensure that likely won't happen. It doesn't mean players get a no danger guarantee, but it does mean the game should remain predictable to some extent when you travel, which is no different from many other MMOs out there. It's just a matter of how it's enforced and what it's trying to stop. Will this work? Nobody knows. There are other games that attempt systems kind of like this, such as World of Tanks with its team killing mechanic and EVE with its low, medium, and high security areas. But many games that have gone this route don't have as many underlying systems to use. A long development cycle, while it's been a bit of a pain, has given CIG the ability to purpose build a lot of these pieces of the game engine, and we are only now starting to see if they will all work together to make the game work. Undoubtedly, there will be edge cases, malfunctions, and overall holes in the system, but I do think this could be adequate in deterring enough foul gameplay outside of what the game intends in terms of PvP, as well as expanding the variety of gameplay for players in different star systems and professions. If all of this can be implemented, made fun, and positively impact the experiences of players in the game, I'll consider it a success. And if you'd like to see if that happens, consider subscribing here for more updates on the development of Star Citizen and Squadron 42. I'd like to thank you again for watching this video. It was released earlier in the year as a supporter exclusive. Our series of YouTube channels and streams are a family endeavor with me and my wife, and our supporters are how we continue to do what we do. So if you'd like to join them in monthly exclusives, live podcast access, referral code randomizer access, and helping to keep this going, you can become a member down below or on Patreon. You can also check out our second YouTube channel for more long-form content if that's your thing. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.